So we can see in multiple Bible points how the number 7 is a number used to describe completeness, and how God glorified the number 7 as a number of completeness. Now, what does the Bible show about the number 6 and what 6 is used to represent? Well, the first scripture it speaks about is at First Chronicles. That's First Chronicles in the Old Testament. First Chronicles chapter 20, verse 6. And in First Chronicles chapter 20, verse 6, going down to the latter part, it speaks about, it says, well, it's around the B section. It says, war broke out yet again at Gate, where there was a man of extraordinary size, with 6 fingers on each hand, and 6 toes on each foot. And I'm an end quote right there. Now, how is the number 6 shown in this Bible point? Well, it's not hard to see that 6, the number 6 alone, is used to show how this man was flawed, or how this man was off track from being complete. We're going to move on to one more scripture. And this scripture is at Daniel chapter 3, verse 1. Again, that's Daniel chapter 3, verse 1. Daniel chapter 3, verse 1, where it says, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold that was 60 cubits high and 6 cubits wide. He set it up on the plain of Duran in the province of Babylon. End quote. How is the number 6 used here? Well, it's used to show something that's flawed in the eyes of God, because this statue was an image of a false god. So, the Bible points out how 7 is glorified as being complete, and how 6, the number 6 alone, is shown as being short of not complete and flawed. So the meaning of 6 is emphasized by calculating the meaning. So the meaning of 6 is emphasized by calculated to mean something that is not complete, that is flawed, which matches the meaning of the world government. A flawed incomplete government is a failure to mankind. So, 6 denotes the meaning of failure or flawed government. So, the mark of 6 said 3 times is the meaning of failure, failure, failure. The mark and the name of shame, that is symbolic. Just like the beast itself has a symbolic meaning. So, when in part 1, when I went over the point where it says how the angel said at Revelation chapter 4 verse 8, referring to God saying holy, holy, holy 3 different times, emphasizing how God is holy. And at Revelation chapter 8 verse 13, where the angel in the midheaven says woe, woe, woe 3 different times, giving emphasis to warning. Well, in Revelation chapter 13 verse 18, where it speaks about the mark of the beast number 666, it's saying, an angel is basically saying failure, failure, failure. Now, why do I say it's basically saying like an angel said failure, failure, failure? Because at Revelation chapter 1 verse 1, it actually says revelation comes from God and given to Jesus, and Jesus gave it to an angel, and the angel is showing John this information. So that is the complete meaning of 6, failure, or short of being complete, and flawed. Because if something isn't complete, it's flawed. Imagine if somebody gave you a burger that didn't have the bottom bun. That's flawed. It's incomplete. Imagine if somebody went to school with, or went to their job with their shirt, their hat, but no pants. That's flawed. It's incomplete. They wouldn't be accepted to work where they at without being complete. So this government falls short of satisfying its citizens, and Jehovah, the God of the Bible, will get rid of this government. At Daniel chapter 2 verse 44, it says how God's government is going to crush and destroy this failure, failure, failure government of mankind. That is why true Christians follow Jesus' example and put their hope not on mankind's kingdom, but in God's kingdom. As Matthew chapter 8 verse 9 through 10 speaks about how Jesus says how the Lord's name should be sanctified and let thy kingdom come. So let thy kingdom come is referring to let God's kingdom come and make it like it is in heaven, also on earth. And if you read Revelation chapter 20, it speaks about a new heaven and a new earth. And if you read Revelation chapter 12, verse 9, it speaks about how heaven was cleaned out with Satan and his demons being thrown out of it. However, Satan's here on earth. So that's why we need to pray for the conditions, the peaceful conditions that are in heaven can come up on mankind. And at Revelation chapter 21, That's where it says there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. And I think I said Revelation 21 before. If I said Revelation 20 in the previous point, and I made reference to heaven and a new heaven and a new earth, then that was a slip up. Revelation chapter 21 verses 1 speaks about a new heaven and a new earth. So those were just some side points. I wish everyone peace and love as they go on a journey of learning the truth, step by step, putting the pieces of the puzzle together in order to see the picture clear. And it's very cool to put on spiritual glasses and be able to see something that other people can't see because they don't have the patience and they don't want to examine it spiritually. They just want to be like the physical man. And at 1 Corinthians chapter, let's make sure. Yeah, 1 Corinthians, trying to get that last scripture. Yeah, 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 14 through 15 speaks about how what's required for a spiritual person to understand the Bible and how physical man can't. So peace and love.